Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for September 23rd. Oh my goodness, September 23rd already of 2025. Talk about it Tuesday. Today you are stuck with me, I guess, to lead the top of the conversation. Adam and Michelle are here with me, and others are online or down the hall on other calls. So we're going to do, I know this was advertised as the distribution sort of in the next fiscal year. But we'll also do a little bit of a board meeting recap, largely centered around finances, because 'tis the season to discuss fiscal year things and budgets and all of that. So, and then of course we'll do our regular announcements, deadlines, reminders, training overview, and our review and all of that. So, let's go ahead and get started. And this is if you have logged on. Can you minimize that at all?
Yeah,
If
sure can.
Okay. Thank you. If you've seen me present any in the last year, you've seen this slide in some iteration, and I'm just going to go over it again for everybody's edification, just to be sure that you all kind of understand where our revenues are, because revenues then lead to expenditures and distributions and all of that. So we have kept a very close eye. We haven't necessarily always presented on this or advertised this often, but just so you all know, we constantly look at revenues and trend revenues to make sure that we don't have something looming that we haven't noticed a trend in. So this breaks our revenues apart, what we get from the Department of Revenue, which is your point of sale transactional type of revenues, and then of course your what we have called postpaid, your subscription type revenues, as far as what you subscribe to on landlines, home phones, wireless phones, all of that. So overwhelmingly 83+% of our revenues typically come from what we all pay on our phone bill. And then the remainder comes from the Department of Revenue for, like I said, those point of sale transactional types of revenues. I have this broken apart just to sort of show you, because we do look at them separately as well as together trend wise. And you see over 14 months, and the reason I put 14 months versus the last 12 is because July 2024 is when we had a distribution that was for our first complete month of collecting at 223. So after the CPI increase of the rate, that's all months that we have collected for at 223. So that being said, you see that those are relatively stable. Yes, there are variances each and every month, and each and every month those variances make the variance in your distribution, a portion of it, the population portion. But just so you know, we don't get the same dollar amount every month from the same providers or from the Department of Revenue. It really depends on when they bill, when their customers pay, when they collect, and when they remit to us. So it's up to a 60-day, I hate to say lag, but cycle. It's not a lag, it's a cycle. And I had this question posed to me recently in our sunset review, is like how long does it usually take a carrier to pay? Just so you all know, we get paid in the last 2 to 3 business days of the month, like over 90% of our revenues. So as you can imagine, a carrier is going to keep their money as long as they can before they remit it to us for the month. So we overwhelmingly have a very low balance in the revenue account towards the end of the month. And then between typically the 28th, 29th, 30th, when they initiate that transfer to us, it takes a couple days for it to get to us. Just specifically this month that we're in, September being September 1st, which actually happened to be a holiday. Sometimes it just takes a couple days to get to us. And that being said, that's why we can't do a distribution immediately. One, we have to reconcile all of those transactions, and like we're upwards of almost 400 carriers remitting to us now, and that changes monthly. But just so you all know, that's sort of where it's not sort of, that is where we are with the revenues. And then when you put that all together, you see a remarkably stable line at the top. Again, there are variances each month in our revenues, and that's produces the variance in your distributions. But overwhelmingly, we have a pretty stable amount of income monthly and have for 14 months. So if I showed you a graph that backed up from that, you would see a pretty remarkable increase, but that's because of the rate increase. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's trending upward. It means that was in a cycle of implementing the rate increase. So with that said, this is a slide I showed to the board last week. And just a note, we are also always watching to make sure we make districts whole. And according to the statute, in a year's time, we must make you whole to your baseline. So that is what this is showing to measure. So your direct payments to your to ECDs has not outpaced, but is more than your annual baseline. So that being said, the point here is, because you can't read all those things across the bottom axis, is to say that in fiscal year 2025, the one we'll be out of in the next 7 days, we have owed districts baseline now. We have owed districts 123 million, and we've paid you just a touch over that in this time frame. The asterisk, if you will, or the note that I wanted to say is we still have not paid out for legacy and PST certification reimbursements because they're not due until the 10th, and they're still in the process. I know Michelle, I think I saw one come through earlier that she's still processing. And so those approvals will be done at next Adam's level and then mine, and then I'll set up the distribution for the end of the month. But overall recap, minus those payments that are due at the end of the month for reimbursement to you all, we have overpaid, if you will, over the baseline about $9.5 million in this fiscal year, or a little over 8%. So that's just, keeping track of what we keep track of on a monthly basis. And then we look at it annually, and then we obviously look at it over time as well. All right. So that said, let's talk about the distribution under Act 2025-376. So again, that law does not take effect until October 1st. And then your next monthly distribution will be in the month of October. So it will impact that particular month. So this is also a slide that I showed in our July board meeting. I showed it at AA&D presentation for the 9-1 Summit. I showed it at the ACCA presentation I did for county administrators and county attorneys. Like I've shown this and shared this several times. So what I've done is taken, the most average months out of the last 12 or so, and kind of showed what that distribution will look like. And that distribution will look remarkably similar to what you've gotten in the past. However, there's a few new nuances with the law taking effect that you just need to be aware of. Keep in mind that previously the law said we make you whole in a year to an annual baseline. The new language included in that act says that we will monthly make you whole to 1/12 of the annual baseline. So we will be meeting that target, assuming there's money in the fund. We will be meeting that target monthly versus maybe one month being a little less and the next month being a little bit more. That's just how that's going to be. So there could be a month if our revenues drop below a certain amount where you get your baseline and your baseline only. And then other months maybe about half. You would also get a population distribution potentially. Again, it very much is dependent upon when we get those revenues, but we try our best to have that cut off in the first 2 to 3 days of the month we make the distribution in, so that we are meeting our baseline with a little extra. And trying to kind of keep those carriers that remit to us, kind of, I hate to say cut off, but in the months that they are remitting for the collection period that they are remitting for. So this takes 8 months, I think. Yeah, 8 months out of 12. I haven't updated the slide. We did have one more instance of the Department of Revenue's payment being late to us last month. But we, have it on good authority that they were issuing payment and we knew what the dollar amount was. So we incorporated that into our distribution Friday before last, I believe. So keep in mind that those are things we don't necessarily have any control over, but they do happen, and they have happened in the existence of the board. It's been a little bit more prevalent lately, but those are just simply things that we don't necessarily have any control over. So I won't go through all these numbers, and I'm certain it's probably difficult for you all to read. The point that I want to make here is that when we have to take from a fund that has money in it, which is always going to be what the board renamed Carrier and ECD Services, I would just challenge you all to cleanse your mind of cost recovery fund being the name of that fund, because that for a decade or more, that fund has not been used expressly for that purpose anymore. Our law has changed 3 or 4 times over. That fund is used to pay for carrier and ECD services. They're not necessarily, but could be, direct payments to you. But with this law change, what that means is we pay carriers for cost recovery, which is a less than $1 million program now. We also pay for your reimbursements out of that program. As far as your legacy reimbursements, we pay for call delivery network, we pay for statewide tech services, we pay for GIS, we will pay for in the new year certification and training because of the law change. Just as a side note, all certification and training expenditures in this fiscal year that we're still in for the next 7 days were paid out of our 1%. That's not sustainable out of our 1% to the extent that we've been offering that, but because of the need for law change a year ago, thankfully we were able to sustain those programs for this fiscal year. So I doubt that is very meaningful to you all, in that you probably didn't notice. I don't mean it's not meaningful, because I think it's very meaningful. I mean, it's a mandate on the board to continue your certification and training. But we were able to do that this past year, or this current, I hate to say this past year, but moving forward, in this year that we're in, we were able to sustain that program. All that said is we now get to use the carrier and ECD services account, which has been known as reserves, has been known as engine, has been known as cost recovery. Just cement in your mind, as I'm trying to, carrier and ECD services, we will be using that for all the things that Act 2025-387 say that we can and should use it for. So all of that being said, we will do your baseline distribution on the 15th of every month. Some of you will remember we used to have set days for distributions, and we're just going to go back to that because we've had a number of questions about what is my baseline. So that just kind of keeps everybody informed. Like, this is your baseline distribution, and I don't necessarily know what you see in your bank account, but when I do the distribution every month, there's a column in the distribution called an addenda that I enter. I don't know what comes through on your side, but basically I will title that month's date baseline distribution. And then say around the 20th, 5 or so business days later, you'll see your population distribution if there is one. So that being said, you'll then see at the end of the month your regular reimbursements and payments that we traditionally do. So that will it will likely be one extra transaction for you to account for each month, but hopefully it will be self-explanatory, and I'm trying to make it easier for auditing purposes for us to explain, for you to explain, this is our baseline this month. We've been made whole. This is our population distribution for this month. Either the board received extra revenues over and above the baseline or they didn't. Do keep in mind we have to take from the carrier and ECD services to make you whole if we don't have the amount of revenues that we need for the month. But I will tell you, besides timing and a couple of anomalies, our revenues have been reasonably steady. So I don't mean that to be a cause of concern. It's just a statement of fact that our revenues have been what they are. So if you took 8 of our regular normal months last year and put it under the law that takes effect October 1st, this is what you would have. And I show you this to show you we would have to take from that other account about $1 million, that 907,159.61, about $1 million to be certain you were made whole to 1/12 of your annual baseline every month, just because we had revenues that were a little down one month and a little more in another month. So just keep that in mind. I will have this conversation with every one of you individually or as often as it takes. But that's just sort of, if you applied the newest version of the law to this current year's revenues, that's what you would get in a month that's not an anomaly, or we didn't get paid, or the carrier portal didn't glitch out, or whatever. So because that's happened 3 times in the last 13 months. Not the carrier portal, but 2 late payments and then the carrier portal being under maintenance and it not accepting the payment. So I'll pause there for just a moment just to see if anybody has any questions, or if there's anybody that has chatted a question. So
No chat.
okay, awesome. All right. Again, I won't bore you with any more discussion about this. So just be on the lookout on the 15th of each month for your baseline, about the 20th for any population distribution that's due. And then at the end of the month, you'll see whatever reimbursements that you put in for, if all that paperwork is complete. The only other thing that I want to mention is some of you asked in the last few weeks leading up to the end of the year if you would have that if you would have any other money coming. So we'll need to close out the fiscal year. The conversation in the board meeting last week was we need to think about the interest income. We need to do something with that. We should be able to close out, hopefully, actual cost recovery plans and programs. But it typically or traditionally, the board makes that consideration in the November board meeting. So I think we will do that. I could not tell you how much money that would be at this moment. I just can't. However, if they make a declaration out of that account, the carrier and ECD services, it will have to be by population. And then they may also, according to the new law, at some point in the future, they may also decide to make an equal parts distribution, or a distribution. But I would tell you that's based on the balance of that account, I would say. So,
Lisa,
can we get an explanation of how the baseline distribution is determined? All right, the baseline distribution was determined by the collection of data that happened in 2009, 10, and 11 that you all, as districts at the time, submitted to the wireless board, AUM, I think not I think they were the educational institution that was commissioned to do that. District said how much money they needed at the time, and it has only been altered by a cost of living or the CPI. That is the only way there. So when I tell you when people call it the formula, I would say that's a little bit of a misnomer. And until that's revisited, that's how that was determined. So that is what we're currently working with. And think understand that there have been groups that have discussed revisiting that, but that is one of those things that you as a stakeholder group would really need to come to consensus on before moving forward with changing that. If I will also offer to you that 911, this is for everyone, 911 is expensive. It is getting more and more expensive every day. And we're having to change how we do business and how we manage our funds to deliver 911 access to the state. And I believe that Act 2025 373, right? 373,
Correct.
not 376, 373, is our tool to use, your tool to use to figure out how you may do business differently. We've known as a board, as a staff, that over time, the contracted services that we pay for are increasing. We're going to pretty much have to rebid everything due to procurement laws and requirements. We will have to pretty much rebid every technological service that we offer you all next year. I cannot, I kind of laugh when I say that. It's not funny. But I can only assume those costs are going to go up. And that's more and more usage of that carrier and ECD services fund. One thing that I feel like maybe I have maybe failed on is really conveying how much of that we have paid for on district's behalf. Granted, we get an economies of scale savings with that versus you all doing it on your own, or one by one. But no one is just expensive. Personnel is expensive. Running your business, running your 911 center 24/7, the power bill is expensive. It is. So that's not all that you asked for, but we're 15 years post that data collection, but it still remains unchanged. That is what your baseline distribution is based on. Only increased for CPI at this point. So, all right. I think that's all I wanted to say about that. I think. So, what's next?
As Mr. Gunt would say.
I know. I think that's all I have to say about that. Anyway, so Adam,
All right.
you go.
To continue our discussion of finances, we were able to bring off the table and back up for discussion grant cycle 10 due to the passage of Act 2025 376. Noting now, and I'll note again later, that it does not become effective until October 1st. So we had some pretty in-depth discussion and the board had some deliberation based on considerations that we presented to them that were inclusive of including project categories beyond the NG911 CPE and NG911 recorders as was advertised and written in the application. They chose and decided to only consider projects in those two categories. And then we also had some really good discussion on several considerations within CPE to include funding second positions on a main CPE system at secondary PSAPs, as well as certain hardware and annual service aspects of NG911 recorders. where we landed, or where the board landed and approved, is awards to 24 ECDs for 31, I think 33 projects, for a total of $3,771,281.24. So next steps in this process, we are almost complete with the grant award letters and the project agreements to be sent out to all of the awardees. It is my desire, and will happen unless something major gets in the way, that those will be mailed and emailed out this week. Tentatively right now, the deadline for return will be October 20. If anything happens to that deadline as far as moving it, it will move up, because we want to get this money out as quickly as possible. So if you're watching this and you are on this list that was on our press release that was released last Thursday, be on the lookout for that email and or that hard copy letter, and whatever internal agency approvals you feel like you need, whether it's presentation to your board or your board chair, whoever, go ahead and have that lined up so you can sign that agreement if you wish to accept the award, and send it back to us prior to the deadline that will be listed in the letter and the agreement. Again, right now it's tentatively October 20th.
It is only beneficial to you to move that through, for us to be able to hopefully move forward with any other considerations that we'll do in the future.
Yeah.
But we would really like to have that completed and us to be able to be paid out before our next board meeting in
Yep.
November.
That is the plan now, and in order to do that, we need those grant agreements back. Again, we can't pay anything out until October 1st. So if you get the grant agreement back to me on Friday, that's awesome. I appreciate it. I applaud that effort. You won't get paid until after the deadline, likely, unless we have some other internal discussions where we break the payments apart. It's just easier for us to do all this at once, so we don't accidentally miss somebody. After that, if you've been a grant awardee in the past, you should be familiar with this process, but there are quarterly status reports that'll be due to us so we can report to the board. The calendar will be included within the project agreement, but it again is broken up into quarter years, and it is a due date to report on a time period within the year. So be on the lookout for the letters, the award letters, and the grant agreements. Like I said, they'll come by email, and they'll also come by hard mail. Snail mail, hard copy.
Hard copy,
that.
snail mail, all the above.
All right, so some upcoming training that we have. We are excited to finally be able to have this class, the Alabama EMD version 2 class. We will have prior to the EMS conference, November 10th and 11th. You can register for it by going to our training registration link on our website. There is going to be a process for this registration to make sure that prerequisites are met, and then some other online steps that have to be met. If you register for this class, I believe Jesse will be handling most of that communication via email. So just know that there are multiple steps than just signing up
And showing up.
We have
There are things to do prior to.
The program itself and the implementation of it has changed a great deal for the better. And it includes some online content as well as in-person content. So if you've been looking for an EMD course, here's your first opportunity to get in on the version 2 of that.
And there is a talk about it Tuesday coming up for that. Right?
Yes,
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
That was the resignation. Shell says yes, it's going to happen.
there is one coming
It's
up.
very soon also.
And if not, we've just worked our way in.
There is.
We had to change the date.
Yeah.
So,
And I was like, I know we talked about it and had to do some changing because I messed up the dates for today's.
right.
So,
Tentatively October 7th.
okay. So I neglected to look at the attendee list. Daniel, I don't know if you're on, and if you're not, that's fine. But if you wanted to speak any more about any of this, please just holler and I'll shut up. Right, busy doing other things.
I was about to say, I think he
So
he
in-
was when I saw him.
In preparation for that class and also the state certification for PSTs, we are offering an IED ETC course here in our office next week, September 29th through October 3rd. So if you need a 40-hour basic course for any reason, that is available to you. This will be the last one, certainly
Last
for
one
this
this year.
fiscal year.
It's last one, I think, for this calendar
Last
year.
one for
I
this
think that's
calendar
what
year. So
Laura said.
please sign up if you need a 40-hour basic course.
I didn't have anything to
All right,
say.
just making
I was
sure.
gonna make a guess about something we talked about months ago, but you know what?
Daniel did say you handle EMD.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Daniel. I do my best. Trying to be like an amoeba and fill in wherever. So crisis call training, the CIT course, there'll be 2 instances of them in Atmore on October 28th and October 29th. Really good program. If you're not familiar with it, give us a call and we can talk through a little bit of it. But it's a very, very informative and enlightening program to kind of just add some color to mental health crisis calls and resources available and just skill sets needed to handle calls like that.
And I just want to clarify, this is a 1-day class. You can take it Tuesday
Yes,
or Wednesday.
thank
It's
you.
not a 2-day class.
Thank you.
And I will speak up here for just a second, if that's okay.
You go right ahead.
Wednesday is full already, so the 28th
Oh.
has one spot available left on that class.
Oh, okay.
Is there a wait list?
There will be, yeah, a wait list.
Okay. All right. So get on it if you want that one slide on Tuesday. Otherwise, get on I see now that I'm looking at the slide in front of me, very limited number of seats. Let's see, and coming up November 3rd and November 5th in Tuscaloosa and Baldwin County 911 respectively. Emotional and social intelligence. I believe this is a level up class. Charles Hedgepeth. I believe I've heard him speak at one of our conferences, but anyway, very good course and available there, 8 hours of CEUs. CTO class coming in Birmingham or the Birmingham area at Shelby County 911, November 17th through 19th, free to attend. If for those that have been asking, I know that this has been in high demand. So please go and sign your folks up.
This is the one that had to be rescheduled. too.
I believe so. All right.
Let me take over.
Sure.
All right, just a reminder that we are still in fiscal year 25 for the legacy 911 cost reimbursements. They're due the 10th of each month. The last opportunity for fiscal year 25, which runs October 24 to September 25, is December 10th. And so if you are 3 more, right. If
Sorry, I've advanced talking. Y'all, I'm like squarely in fiscal year 26 and I have to back up.
Add to that before
Yes.
you move on to it.
Mhm.
For those who
Yeah.
still receive Brightspeed bills or have received Brightspeed bills, but now receive a bill that's zeroed out or something like that, any of those combinations, Lee and I have been working with Brightspeed for quite some time now. The update we got last week was that credits to those ECDs that legacy services did not drop off of when we took over direct billing, credits have been applied for, and that's kind of where we're at in the process. So if for some reason you receive a credit, please let us know. The other thing that is important to this particular item we're talking about, the legacy 911 cost reimbursement, is we're going to need you guys with Brightspeed bills to continue to submit through the time of credit. So when you get a credit and it's on a bill, or if it's just in a letter with a check or whatever, however that comes, we need you to submit through that time period because we have held several reimbursement requests from fiscal year 24 and 25.
With
So-
that district knowing,
With
I
that
mean,
di-
that
yes.
duly informed.
Yes, so we can work backwards with that credit and then make sure that we get the reimbursement accurate and don't have to send you a letter telling you that you need to repay us a sum of money. So that's the reason we've held on to those, hoping that this process would move swifter than it has, but we are making progress and just keep that in mind.
All right. Again, the last day to submit those fiscal year 25 is December 10th. I would say, except in that case, if you get a credit that
Yeah, we'll work.
in the
yeah,
December,
we'll work
in the
with
January and February, we need to
specifically,
know those. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you are hiring, I can post that to our website. Go ahead and email me the job description and the closing date, and I will get them put up. And if you happen to be looking for a job, you can search hiring on our website and see what's posted.
I have something to add there too.
Okay.
I know Anderson is on the call, but we are also hiring for a GIS, some GIS positions, or a GIS position.
So like
So,
positions.
What?
if you are
We
interested,
may be bringing on some interns if we
that-
can,
well, that's fair.
if we can find those.
That's fair. If you're interested in that or know somebody who might be interested, that information is on our website. So please forward them that and point them to our website or have them call Anderson and he can answer any questions and talk them through the process.
And on the theme of GIS, upload, validate, aggregate your GIS data to the state office VEP every 2 weeks. The immediate, no, that's not the word Anderson uses. Not immediacy.
Iterative.
Recency?
Recency
Yeah.
of your data is important.
People do listen to me.
I listen. Yeah, the recency of your data is important. Make sure that it's done every 2 weeks would be Anderson's preference. PST certification reimbursement. If you have costs associated with getting your PST certified, if you get those submitted via our form by the 10th of the month, they should be paid out at the end of the month. And if you need any information on that, it's on our website.
Need the name of the PST on those though, because we do log them in My Alabama to make sure that we don't reimburse the same person multiple times. All right. Does anybody have any questions? Any further comments?
I mean, I'll have 8 as soon as you hit end, but, no,
Okay.
be here all day,
Yeah, well, if like Leah, when we end this, you realize that you had a question to ask, just call us or email one of us.
That's right.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys for taking some time out
Yeah.
and spending it with us. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. And if you need anything, we're here for it.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Thank y'all so much.
Thanks,
Have a
guys.
good rest of your week.